Bizminer, or people that just want a refresher, I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over the products that are available through the Bizminer website. And then after that, I'm going to introduce you to a new product of ours called BizMarkets to Go. Everyone already has access to this new product, so some of you may be familiar with it, but I did check usage on your account before this, and it doesn't look like many people are using this new product. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting for everyone to see the capabilities of this new market research tool that we have. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen with you. Like I said, I'm going to start off on the Bizminer website and go over the products that are available on this website and then jump over to BizMarkets to Go. If at any time someone has a question or if there's something that grabs your attention and you want to take a closer look at it, feel free to let me know. And Heather, can you see my screen okay right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. All right, so I'm just going to start off by going over the products that are available on the Bizminer website. As most of you probably know, we have a couple of different financial reports and also a couple of different industry market reports that are available through the Bizminer website. So quickly, I'm just going to go over the different products that are available, take a look at some sample reports so you can see what the reports look like and the content of those reports. After that, I'll quickly go through the selection process just to refresh everyone's memory on how you create and access these reports. And then, like I said, I'll jump over to our sister website called BizMarkets to Go to show you the new market research tool that we have. So on the Bizminer website, we have these 4 different financial reports available: U.S. industry financial reports, local industry financial reports, microfirm profit and loss reports, and a benchmarking tool that we call the Biz Benchmarker. So I'll start off with the first report. This is probably our most popular report. This is what's used most often, the U.S. industry financial and the local industry financial report. Now these 2 reports are the same as far as the format and the content of those reports. The only things that are different are the market areas. So this first report is obviously focusing on the industry at the national level, so it's a U.S. financial report, whereas this local industry financial report is focusing on a state or a metro area. Both of these reports are available for a little over 5,000 industries. They come in 3- and 5-year versions, and they're going to include things such as the profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and financial ratios. So let me go ahead and bring up a sample. We'll quickly take a look at what this report looks like. So this sample is for plumbing, heating, and air conditioning contractors in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. With these financial reports, you can also choose a sales class. So this would allow you to focus on establishments of a certain size within the industry. This sample is looking at plumbing, heating, and air conditioning contractors that have between $1 million and $2.5 million in annual sales. Over here on the right, it's going to show you the years and the number of firms that are being analyzed. It'll start off with discretionary owner earnings, which is a good indicator of profits for small businesses. These reports will give you a very detailed profit and loss statement with 23 line items. And that will come in both dollar and percentage form. We'll then have a balance sheet. This will have 16 line items, and this will also come in dollar and percentage form. There'll be a sources and uses of funds table. And then we'll get down into the financial ratios. Every financial report that you pull will have 34 financial ratios. They'll be separated out into 4 different categories. So the first category of ratios is cash flow solvency. You'll have the ratios here, a definition for each ratio underneath the table, and also a bar graph to go along with each one. And then we'll have profitability ratios, ratios for efficiency and debt risk, and then we'll have our final category of ratios, which will be turnover. And I believe I pointed this out earlier, but every financial report will look just like this one. So this financial report is for plumbing, heating, and air conditioning contractors in Harrisburg. But if you were to pull this report for seafood restaurants in Florida, it would still look the same format, same content. So the only things that are changing are the numbers, depending on your industry, your market area, and the sales class that you're focusing on. And then at the bottom of each report, we have a list of the sources for our data. You can always find the sources at the bottom of every report. Any questions for this particular report? All right. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. So those are our industry financial reports. We also have a financial report that we call the microfirm profit and loss report. This is another financial report, but it's a little bit different from the first one that we looked at. This one comes in 2 versions, one that focuses only on sole proprietorships within the industry, and one that focuses only on the startups within the industry. So it's a way to separate out and take a look at the financials for that particular type of business. With this report, it's always U.S. based, so this is actually the only report that doesn't allow you to choose a local area to focus on. It's always U.S. based, and there's no sales class options. So this report's a little less detailed, but as you know, it's a nice option to have because a sole proprietorship's financials or a startup's financials are going to look a lot different than a corporation who's been around for a while. So it's a nice option to have. Go ahead and bring up this sample quickly. Like I said, it's going to look pretty similar to the other financial report. It's just a little less detailed. So it's going to have the years and the firms analyzed up here towards the top. It's going to start off with net profit as a percentage. It will have an income and expense statement in dollar and percentage form. This report does not have a balance sheet, but it does have annual and monthly cash flow statements. And this report is going to have 10 financial ratios. So a little less detailed, but a nice option to have to be able to focus just on the startups or just on the sole proprietorships.
I have a question.
Yep.
Can you base the financial of a startup based on your reports? I mean, can we use that as a reference?
Can you do what?
And can we use the financial report as a reference for startup financial?
Yeah, you could use the startup version as a reference. Our startup version is going to include businesses within their first 24 months of operation. Any other questions on this report? All right, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. We also have this final financial report. It's called the Biz Benchmarker. This is actually using the same financial information as what's used in the U.S. and local industry financial reports. The only difference is with this Biz Benchmarker, it requires a client's inputs. So this is a very customizable financial benchmarking report. With this report, you would actually choose what years you want in the report, what metrics you want to include, so you can actually pick and choose what financial ratios you want in the report. You then upload a client's financial information. This report will automatically calculate your client's financial ratios, compare their ratios to the industry averages, and then give them scores on a 1 to 5 scale. So it's meant to show your clients how they're performing in different categories, where they're doing well, where they need to make some improvements. So it's meant to be a very client-friendly report that you can use with them. Let me go ahead and bring up the sample. This report also allows you to create a cover page. So it can say the Biz Benchmarker report developed for, and then your client's name, and developed by, and you could have your SBDC name and logo there. Just like with our financial report, you would choose the market area, the industry, and the sales class that you want to focus on. Like I said, this report's going to give your client color-coded scores on a 1 to 5 scale. They're going to get an overall score, and they're also going to get a score in the 4 different ratio categories. The overall score is the average of these 4 category scores, and the category scores are the average of the ratio scores within that category. So basically, for whatever ratio you decided to include in the report, and for each year you decided to include, it's going to take your client's ratio, compare it to the industry, and give them a score. For example, with the current ratio, this particular client got a score of a 3 for each year. And then over on the right, it's going to have their overall color-coded score. So your client and you are meant to be able to look at this and say, okay, it looks like they're doing pretty well when it comes to their cash flow and their profitability, but this person is struggling a little bit when it comes to their efficiency and especially their debt risk. So it shows you where they're doing well, where they need to make some improvements. And then as we get down into the second part of the report, it goes into a little bit more detail for each ratio. For example, sticking with the current ratio, it'll show your current or your client's ratio and the industry ratio for each year. It'll have their average score. And then down here, it'll also have a consider this action. This is a suggestion as to how they can improve their score. Now, these suggestions are pretty broad because they apply across industry segments. And you can't see it here in this sample report because it's a PDF. But if you were to create this report and access it as an HTML, you would see a little edit button over here on the right, and you would be able to click that edit button and add your own suggestions into the report. That way you can make suggestions that directly apply to what your client's doing on a day-to-day basis. So pretty cool report. And then if I scroll down here to the bottom of the report, I'll show you what the profit and loss and balance sheet look like if you decide to include them. So here's the profit and loss. It'll show your industry averages, your client's average, and the variance from the industry for each year you decided to include in the report. And then the balance sheet will look very similar. So pretty cool financial benchmarking tool called the Biz Benchmarker. Let me go ahead and exit out of this. Now, I showed you the financial reports that are available through Bizminer. Bizminer also has a couple of market reports. We call it the Industry Market Report and the Competitive Market Analyzer. With these two reports, you can actually choose your industry and then you customize your market area. That market area can be the U.S., a state, a metro area, a county, or even a zip code combination. So you can enter 1 or up to 25 zip codes to create your own area. Let me go ahead and bring up this sample so you can see what it looks like. This industry market report is for plumbing, heating, and air conditioning contractors in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm going to start off with the industry population, separated out into these different types of businesses. Down on page 2, there's cessation rates, or in other words, failure rates. We have industry market volume and average annual sales. Down on page 4, there's sales trends by employment class. What we've done here is broken down the industry into small, medium, and large businesses depending on the number of employees that they have. And then we show you market volume, percent market volume, and average sales for each employment class. Some more employment class trends on the next page: number of establishments, total employment, and average employment for each class. We then have a sales per employee measurement, which is a good indicator of productivity. Then we have some startup activity. We show you the number of startup firms in the most recent year. We show their average sales, market volume, market share. We also see how many startups there were in the first year of this report, which was 2011. We track those firms and see how many of them survived on to the most recent year. And then we have a failure rate measurement that's specific to the startups. Some more startup activity, new firms, new branch operations, the local industry startup rate, and the U.S. industry startup rate. And then down here on the last page, we have some sales growth rates and employment growth rates for both the local and the U.S. industry. And then some concentration rates and consolidation trends. So a variety of market statistics in this industry market report. This report's actually available for 9,000 industries, so even more industries than our financial report. And like I said earlier, you can focus on a market area that ranges from the U.S. all the way down to the zip code level. So you can get very specific with the market area that you want to analyze. Let me exit out of this, and I'll bring up the competitive market analyzer. This is actually our only narrative report. So what this report actually does, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this report because, like I said, it is a narrative report, so you have to sit here and read through it, which tends to take a while. So I'll just kind of point out what this report includes. This report actually takes the most recent year of financial data from our industry financial report and the most recent year of information from the industry market report that we just looked at and puts it into a narrative form. It also expands upon that information with some regional trends, the area's income, and some economic background information on the area. So it takes all that information and puts it into a nice narrative form that you can sit here and read through. We've come to realize that clients really like this report because sometimes it's a little bit easier for them to sit here and read through a report rather than looking at some of our other reports that are very statistical. It's just a lot of numbers and tables. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on when it's put into this narrative format. So lots of information on this report. This report also benchmarks your local industry to the U.S. industry. Down here in this last section, section number 5, as you can see, it says market area to national industry peers. So basically, this would take the industry in your selected market area and compare it to the industry throughout the U.S. To see if that particular market area is how it's performing. Is it performing very well, better than the U.S. industry? Does it seem to be struggling? It's a little bit smaller and slower than the U.S. industry. So it gives you a sense of how that particular market area is performing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this report. So those are the reports that are available on the Bizminer website. I want to quickly just go through the selection process so you can get a better sense of how you would actually create and access these reports. So basically, when you're on the Bizminer website, you always want to start out by doing an industry search. You can actually click on industry search over here on the left, and it brings up this search page. There's 3 ways that you can search for an industry. You can use what we call a drill down. This will start at sectors like construction or manufacturing. And as you click on them, it'll start to drill down to subsegments like residential building construction. And so you can continue to click on these, and it'll continue to drill down to more specific subsegments, all the way till you get to things such as, kitchen and bath remodeling or patio and deck contractors. So that's one of the ways you can search. You can also type in a keyword, or you can type in an NAICS code. So I can type in 7225, which is the code for restaurants. It'll not only bring up restaurants, but also all the subsegments of that, such as Chinese restaurants or Italian restaurants, steakhouses, and sub shops. Once you find the industry that you're looking for, all you'll have to do is click on Show Industry Reports. And that brings up a page where it lists the different types of reports that we have available. So these are all the reports that we looked at samples of earlier: Industry Financial Profile, the Biz Benchmarker, Microfirm Profit and Loss Reports, Industry Market Report, and Competitive Market Analyzer. So if you're getting one of our industry market reports, you would click on Select a Market Area, and this is where you would either choose the U.S., state, or metro area. You can also choose a state, and then it would allow you to choose a county within that state. Or the last option, where you can enter 1 or up to 25 zip codes to create your own area. Let me jump back to the report selection page. So that's for the 2 market reports. Obviously, with the Microfirm Profit and Loss Report, you would just choose one of the versions, either the sole proprietorship or startup, and then just hit Access Now. The Biz Benchmarker, this selection process is a little bit more in-depth. You would select your market area and your sales class, and then hit Create Biz Benchmarker, and it would take you through a selection process where you would decide what years to include, what metrics to include. It would allow you to input your client's financial information, and then it would go ahead and create the report for you. And then with the Industry Financial Report, you would select the market area, either the U.S., state, or metro area. And then you would choose a sales class. And for all of our reports, once you go through that selection process, all you have to do is hit Access Now. And that takes you to the My Reports page. So basically, this is a storage account for your subscription. It'll store all the reports that you've accessed in the past. And you can go ahead and access the report. The report that you just created will be at the top of the list. You can access it in PDF, HTML, or CSV format. And with the financial reports, there's this little inputs link. this link would allow you to input your client's financial information. So just like with the Biz Benchmarker, you can input your client's financial information so that it'll display their information right alongside the industry averages. Any questions on the selection process itself, how you would actually create and access one of these reports? All right. Any questions at all about anything you've seen on the Bizminer website so far? All right, well then I'm going to jump over to the new product called Biz Markets to Go. Like I said, we just came out with this product a few months ago. Everyone currently has access to this, so feel free to start using it as soon as possible. Basically, this is our new market research tool. The main feature of this new product is a map. So as you can see in the background of the homepage for this website, it shows a map. So what this product is going to do is it's going to allow you to create a custom market radius, and then it's going to map out the competition within a certain industry in that market radius. So you can see where your competition is located and estimated annual sales for the businesses within that industry. So let me go ahead and create the report. You can either log into Bizminer and link over to this website. You can also come directly to Biz Markets to Go and log in with your Bizminer information. Once you log in, you'll just create an industry map. So the first thing it asks you to do is to define your market area. You can either drop a pin on a map, so you could zoom in and move this pin around and drop it somewhere. You can also input an address. You'll start out by selecting a sector, and then you'll select an industry within that sector. And then what's really cool about this report is you create your own market radius. So that market radius can be as small as 1 mile all the way up to a 250-mile radius. For this example, I'll just do a 10-mile radius. So the first thing you do is you view a free map. So anyone can actually come to the website and do what I just did. You'll select a market area, an industry, and create your market radius, and it brings up this free map. So this is a Google map. You can zoom in on it. Basically, it's going to show a blue drop pin, which is the location of your business or your client's business. It'll show the radius that you created. So this is the 10-mile radius that I created. And then all the red drop pins are the competition within that market radius. So in this example, these are all the different offices of dentists within that 10-mile radius that I created. After that, you have two options. You can access the industry map analysis. So this is going to give you market statistics that correspond to this map. This industry map analysis is included in your subscription plan. So you can access these industry map analysis reports for free. We do have another option called the industry contact list. This is an additional purchase, but what this allows you to do is to purchase the contact list for all the businesses that are included on this map. So if you purchase this list, you would actually get the names and contact information for all the businesses that are on this map. We do realize that for SBDCs, it might be difficult for them to make these one-off purchases, but we have had some of our current SBDC clients that have just allowed their client to make this purchase. And we've had a couple of SBDCs who were working with a bank with their client, and the bank actually purchased this list. So we know that this probably isn't something that the SBDCs will be purchasing themselves, but either their client or maybe a bank that they're working with might be interested in purchasing this contact list to go along with the industry map analysis. So to go ahead and access the map analysis, you'll just click on this link up here. It'll ask you to select a sales class, and then you'll just click on Create Map Analysis. So again, the first thing you see is this interactive map. You can zoom in on the map to see where the competition is located. You can also click on these drop pins, and it'll say the distance from your client's business and the estimated annual sales of this business. And if you were to purchase the contact list, it would also have the name of the business on this little pop-up window. There's also some map analysis to go along with this in these different sections. Section number 1 will have industry market performance in this market area. It'll show you the number of locations, total employment, total sales, average sales, the market's sales per employee, the market industry sales per employee, or sales per household, sorry, U.S. sales per household, the market area sales per person, and the U.S. sales per person for this industry. There's also over a dozen U.S. financial benchmarks that correspond to this industry. And there's demographic information for this market radius. So information on population, age, race and ethnicity, employment, income, education, and housing. So a variety of market statistics to go along with this map analysis. And then up here, you can use these icons to either print the report, save it as a PDF, save it as a CSV file. This list icon would allow you to purchase the list. And there's also an inputs option. With its inputs option, you can have a cover page that says developed by and developed for. And you can also input your client's annual sales and the number of employees that they have, and it'll benchmark them against their industry. Lots of different options with this report. I also want to point out that just like on the Bizminer website, if you go to the account link up top, you can go to your My Reports page. So this will be a list of all the BizMarkets to Go reports that you've accessed in the past. That way you can come back to your account, go to the My Reports page, and pull up a report that you've created in the past. You can either click on the HTML, PDF, or CSV version, and you can also come back at a later date to purchase the business list. So let's say you created one of these reports with your client, showed it to them. They came back a few days later and said they want the business list to go along with it. You can just log into your account, go to the My Reports page, click on this business list icon, and you can purchase this list that would correspond to that industry map analysis. I also want to point out that these lists are pretty inexpensive. Even if you had a report that had 100 businesses on the map, that would only cost $32 to purchase that list. So it's not a very expensive product. So it should be pretty affordable for you to purchase those lists to go along with the map. Any questions on this new product that we have? All right, well, that concludes the demo. I went over the products that are available through the Bizminer website and also this new product that we have called BizMarkets to Go. Again, I want to give everyone the opportunity to ask me any questions that they have about either Bizminer or BizMarkets to Go.
Well, thank you, Galen. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone taking the time. Hopefully it was helpful, and I believe everyone has my contact information. So as you're using this new product or any of the Bizminer reports, if you have any questions along the way, you can always feel free to touch base with me, and I'd be happy to help you out.
All right. I know I learned some things that I didn't know. So again, appreciate
That's
it.
good.
If you'll send me the link or however that works out best, I'll get it to those folks who weren't able to participate but wanted to.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.